So recently I just got a new job in a different city and had to move out, found a great apartment in this lovely complex, signed the contract and moved in and all. To this point I have never met or seen my neighbors because I was too focused on dealing with the job transfer and moving out. The next day while I was coming back from work, arrived home, went in the elevator suddenly on the bottom floor of my new apartment. A big and intimidating biker walked in with his Doberman. I was a little startled by his appearance. He was huge and I am short and small. While we all stood there he dryly said, "Sit down." I started panicking, so I sat down. Little did I know he was talking to his dog. He saw my reaction and just started laughing. He never stopped. I had to listen to him laugh all the way to the 10th floor. Doctor, today I was publicly humiliated in front of my neighbor because of my anxious and judgmental brain. I hadn't seen my girlfriend in a few weeks. She's been busy with life and I've been working stupid hours. Earlier today she came over, we made tea and proceeded with the love-making. Previously she had bought me cruelty-free made by women eco-friendly non-latex super condoms, her words, not mine. So after we had finished our romantic escapade, I freaked the fuck out because I thought the condom might have a hole in it. So I figured there was only one way to confirm this, which was to fill it full of water like some sort of sick, perverted water balloon. She finds this hilarious and joins me in the bathroom as I proceed to wrap the tip of this cruelty-free made by women eco-friendly non-latex super condom around the faucet of my bathroom sink and fill it up. As I gazed into this horrific snow globe of lumpy spunk, swimming around aimlessly through this fancy pants-tie super condom, I quickly realized, there was no hole. Only after I filled this atrocity to the very brim, did I realize the repercussions of my actions. My girlfriend watched in terror as this translucent Pandora's box of would-be children quickly turned into an opaque balloon of jizz. The balloon fucking popped and shot jizz all over my bathroom. On the walls, the ceiling, my eyes, her eyes. We didn't know to do. She nearly started crying. Doctor, had sex, thought the condom had a hole in it, filled it with water and watched as my bathroom was coated in jizz water. I'm a university student at a liberal arts college in Asia, currently first year, and this has to be the most embarrassing mistake I've ever made in my life. I moved across the globe to attend this college, and I live alone, so I got a bit lonely and downloaded a bunch of Skyrim sex mods. The thing is, I'm not a very good modder and needed a step-by-step guide to install sex mods and play. So I had this PDF downloaded on my desktop and never deleted it after I finished all the downloading. About 1 month later, we have presentations in class about American politics, and we had to send a document to the professor for the class. I finished my work about 2 weeks early and had my document in PDF form sitting on my desktop chilling, waiting for the day before the presentation to be submitted. Last night, I spent hours and hours preparing with my note cards for this 30-minute presentation, and was pretty confident about it and really wanted to ace it. The night before, I was supposed to submit the PDF, saw the documents and dragged the one I thought was the right one into the submissions box. I forgot that I renamed the guide to essay because I was trying to hide it from my classmates when I was taking notes on the laptop. I woke up the next day, checked my emails, and see the professor sent me an email saying that I sent the wrong document and I could still submit it before class to present. So I fucking did, and I did pretty well, plus the professor did not bother me, but I know that he will never see me in the same way again. Doctor, sent the Skyrim porn guide instead of my presentation document to my professor. So, this happened a couple of years ago, pre-pandemic. I owned a comic book and game store in a metropolitan area and I'd been there for several years. As with any place of business, you get your regulars. I had 2 employees that worked for me, one of which was a young lady that had worked with one of my regular customers from the area. Now, this regular customer, we'll call him Mr. M, typically came in on the weekends when I wasn't there, but every once in a while he'd come in during the week and talk with me about miniatures or comics or whatever tabletop game was coming out. He didn't make an impression on me one way or the other. Then one day, he stopped coming in. My female employee, We'll call her Miss F told me that Mr. M was hurt really bad at work and he had asked her to make his purchases while he was in the hospital, and I didn't think much about it. Fast forward to about 6 months later, Mr. M comes into the store and he's in a wheelchair. His girlfriend is with him. We'll call her Miss G. Now, full transparency, I had a huge crush on Miss G. I would gush like an idiot around her and spend way too much time explaining some inane thing she'd ask about just to be talking her up. She is probably one of the most intelligent women I've ever met, funny and beautiful to boot. Mr. M had to have noticed, but he never said anything about it, and after he was in a wheelchair I spent a little more time talking to him. It turns out he was a really cool guy. Lead and amazing life, and was well liked by the other customers that came into my store. After his injury I noticed him coming in more frequently, since he wasn't able to work. He was always with his girlfriend because he could no longer drive himself, and we sort of became friends. I went to visit him at his home a couple of times. It was a modest place, but you could tell everything and it was high quality. He had a gaming room and a video game arcading part of the house. One day while I was there, my employee Miss F showed up at his house, came in with her own key and went into his room and came out wearing different clothes. It threw me off, so I asked what the deal was and found out that Mr. M was dating his girlfriend, Miss G, and my employee at the same time, and they were open about it. A couple of days later, when Miss G came into the store with Mr. M, I tentatively broached the subject with Miss G and she not only confirmed, but even told me they were trying to find a way to make it official between the three of them. That's when the jealousy kicked in. Mr. M was a nice guy, and he wasn't ugly or anything, but I just couldn't for life of me figure out how this guy, even before he was in a wheelchair, could land two of the most beautiful and intelligent women I had ever met, at the same time. And they wanted to be sister wives with the guy. I kept it to myself, of course, and life carried on like this for about 18 more months. Then the fuck up happened. I was having a pretty shitty week at the store. One employee had quit without notice and Miss F had taken some time off in advance to focus on school. I had some temp help, but this guy was an idiot and could do little more than bag comics and put things on the shelf. During this time, I had quite a few customers try to haggle me down in price on my merchandise. I don't know what was going on, but it seemed like every other customer wanted some kind of discount. Then, Mr. M came in. He had ordered some new stuff for a game he played. While he was ordering them, he and I were talking and he asked, "Since I'm buying so many of these, is there a chance I could get a better price on them?" Full disclosure, he had ordered 10 cases of stuff. I was charging him full retail plus my markup. There was plenty of wiggle room for me to give him a discount of some kind. I could have given him 40% off and still walked away with a profit. Also, it should be noted, if he hadn't been ordering these 10 cases, I would never have had the stock in my store to begin with. It was basically free money. Instead of giving him a discount, I yelled at him, in front of about half a dozen other customers, "You're a fucking asshole. Are you seriously asking me for a discount? What is with you people and your discounts? Do you think I'm running a charity here? I have to make money to pay the bills here." And it went on like this for about 5 minutes of him just sitting there in his wheelchair looking up at me while I piled on every complaint about shitty customers that came to mind. I don't know what came over me, but I felt like I had some small measure of power over this guy and my jealousy wouldn't let me abate my temper. After I took a breath and stepped back, that's when I knew I fucked up. Everyone was staring at me, one person had their phone out, recording. Miss F had walked in at some point and watched this tirade unfolding. Every time Miss G had tried to wheel Mr. M away, he would just gently put his hand on hers and stop her. He didn't say a word the whole time I was losing my shit. Not a single word. Then, as if nothing had happened, he said, "Okay, my man. My bad for asking, I didn't know you felt so strongly about it. Here, let me pay for my order and give me a call when the stuff comes in." I was completely flummoxed by his reaction, but I finished the transaction and he paid my asking price and he left with Miss G. Miss F followed him out as he was leaving and she came back in a few minutes later to buy a couple of things for herself. She acted like nothing had happened and I tried to give her a feeble apology and she said, "Don't worry about it, he's not going to, so you shouldn't." That was the last time I saw Mr. M in person. His order came in about 5 days later. Miss G and Miss F came in to pick up his order, and about a week after that Miss F told me she wasn't coming back after her scheduled time off. I noticed a couple of weeks later that for the first time in years, I had a downward trend in profit for the month. The following month it was worse. Typically I would order certain games or comics because they were in high demand and I'd have to reorder them twice a month. This time the stuff I had ordered at the beginning of the month was still sitting on the shelf. Since I was spending more time at the store, I started to notice that some of my regulars were becoming irregulars, and I got a chance to have my accountant walk me through the books. That's when I noticed it. Throughout the month there would be these cash purchases ranging about $300 to $500 3 times a week. Usually on Tuesdays, which I didn't work on, and on Saturdays and Sundays, which I also didn't work on. So, I reached out to Miss F and asked her about it, since it looked like those were usually the times when she worked. I started asking about the transactions and she quickly said, "Oh, yeah, that was Mr. M. He spent $1,200 to $1,500 a week there by himself. Basically every week since I started, which was like, since you opened the store, right?" I could literally feel my heart hit my stomach on the way to my knees. I asked Miss F if he had ever asked to use her employee discount. She promptly said no, but that the money she typically did spend there, $80 to $100 a week, was usually given to her by Mr. M. But wait, it gets worse. The third month after the incident, one of my regulars comes in who hadn't been in for a while. I started talking with him and asked if he knows where everyone had gone. My regular MTG group had dwindled down to about 4 guys coming in when up to this point it had been a group of at least 50. My miniatures players hadn't been into play in almost 5 weeks and the pull boxes were about to be cleaned out because more than 2/3 of my regular comic subscribers just stopped showing up. That's when he tells me, "Yeah. About that. You know Mr. M, right? Someone shared the video of you berating him on our Facebook group, and comic book store owner that isn't you offered him a 15% discount for life. Since Mr. M started going there, they set up miniature tables and started hosting card and board games. Everyone is going there now." I barely paid rent that month. The following month I didn't make rent, and the month after that it was official. I had to close up shop. 2 months after that, I literally moved back into my parents' house. I went over the books as far back as I could, and in the course of the previous 5 years, it looked like Mr. M had spent over $325,000 at my shop, by himself. He never was flashy or flaunted his wealth or anything, but he certainly spent more than enough to cover my lease and utilities. I bring all this up because yesterday, I ran into Mr. M at a local taco joint. He was walking around and you'd never be able to tell he had been in a wheelchair. Miss G was with him. It's Mrs. G now. She's still gorgeous and charming. They were out picking up a craving for Miss F. Mrs. F, maybe? Since she was at home, pregnant with her and Mr. M's second child. We talked a bit about the pandemic, how some local businesses were hit hard. I brought up that I had heard that one of the local shops survived the pandemic because they got bankrolled by a customer that didn't want to see them close due to hardships. Miss G gave a giggle at that and Mr. M tapped the side of his nose and winked at me, Santa Claus style. I died inside. Then I got to watch them drive away in a brand new 2021 Bronco First Edition while I'm still driving the car I did the last time I saw Mr. M. After they left I sat there in my car thinking about this colossal fuck up. I swear I was cry eating my tacos. Edit, November 30th 2021, so, I woke up to not only this post blowing up, but also my phone. Some people recognized my story and have seen the video and have texted me information about it. 1. I have never seen it myself. I speculated that the person was filming me. 2. It's not a video. It's an audio recording. I'm the one that said video in my retelling, but it would be more accurate to say it was described to me as a recording and I misunderstood and assumed it was a video. I have been talking about it as if it were a video and I apologize for the confusion. 3. It's still on the FB group. It's locked or marked private, but I have been assured that the person who initially shared it still has access to it. I have asked for a copy for proof of my post. We'll see how that pans out. 4. About doxing myself or others. I will do my best to avoid that at all costs. even if it means just isolating a voice on a recording. No promises. If Ramad tells me it's prohibited, I'll have to let the internet sort itself out. 5. I have not reached out to Mr. M yet. Judging by the amount of texts I received, he already knows this post exists and my anxiety and embarrassment have ratcheted up. 6. I got the number to a therapist and will be reaching out to them when their office is open this morning. Also, my dad apparently reads Reddit, and he saw this post. He recognized me immediately. He has not commented but was waiting for me this morning when I went downstairs. So, the last hour or so has been spent talking with him about this situation. What a fun conversation that has been. Never seen my dad disappointed like this in me before. Cuts deep. Edit. I wasn't expecting anyone to actually read this long-winded post, much less to respond with anything other than, "You're an asshole," or some variant thereof. That being said, I'm resolved to at least getting an apology out there and trying to put my conscience to ease. Contrary to the popular opinion in the comments, I do care about how other people feel, including, but not limited to Mr. M, and it's mostly because of this that I am experiencing such high levels of shame, embarrassment and anxiety over this whole situation. I don't know if any of you have done anything this mortifying in your lifetimes, but I'm only human, so please keep that in mind while you're rage typing at me about how much of a POS I am. Those of you that think it's fake, I don't know what to tell you. Welcome to Reddit, say what you want for imaginary points. I'm going to bed now. I'm going to text Mr. M first thing in the morning and see where it goes from there. Thanks, and happy holidays, folks. P.S. I still live with my parents because after all this happened I got a job at a game store in a nearby town, once my boss found out that it was me that treated Mr. M so badly, he fired me. TL, doctor, I lost my shit on a regular customer that was spending 3 times my rent and utilities by himself every month. I went out of business and had to move in with my parents. Edit, typo and grammar. Edit, forgot to mention I got hired and fired from a job after this happened once people told my boss it was me in the FB video.